Hello everybody, I am Mr. 23 and today I'm going to show you how I created this wolf rider and also how to use optics from Boris FX to apply some incredible special effects to your artworks. Let me break it down for you to see how I achieve this result. Even if in the right side I have a certain order with the background, fire, ruins, the wolf, whatever, the rider, I must say that this is just the order of the layers. I first started with the wolf and then adding the rider and then adding the rocks behind them and finally the background. I started by selecting the wolf from this scene. You can follow a tutorial that I have on my channel on how to select animals with 4, and underneath him I added the background picture after that, which is this one, right, with the trees. That was how I started the design, and step by step I changed the colors to match every one of them. If you see, we have some white fringes here on the wolf and I masked them out, and on top I have drew some fur. As I said, I have that tutorial that will help you to understand how to do that. And then I changed the colors of the wolf. So first thing, I darken up a bit by using levels the bottom part of the wolf, and then with the brightness the same thing, another brightness and contrast, decrease everything. Here this will be the shadow for the color, but that will be added later on. Now with the selective color I changed the colors of the wolf, then I have decreased the brightness and made the wolf even darker, and with the brightness and contrast I open up a bit the top part to make it a bit brighter. With the hue and saturation I change again the colors of the wolf. With another hue and saturation I changed the eyes color because they were like that, and I added some yellowish color. And with the brightness and contrast I darken up a bit the rocks on the bottom part. And on the eyes part, again with the layer set to color dodge, this time I drew on the eyes part with the white color. You see those parts on the eyes, I made them pop up even more. After I added the fire behind them, I drew those highlights, but now they don't make sense, so let's hide them. And let's go back to our background. I added a selective color and I have changed the neutrals, and my layer is set to color. And then with an exposure I darken up everything, and with the brightness and contrast even more. And then I used this picture with those ruins and I have selected them and pasted them into my document, and to those ruins I have added a selective color, change it a bit the colors of neutrals. Again the layer is set to color, and I have darkened up them by using a layer set to soft light where I have painted with black to darken up the shadows even more. With an exposure I have made everything even darker, and then after adding the fire I will add the highlights, but we will come back to those later. Let me show you what I did here on the fire part. First I added this type of fire, so this is the image that I have used. Set the blending mode to screen and duplicate it and paste it here on the other side. I have added another picture that I have set to color dodge this time, so this one, normally it looks like that, and I have set the blending mode to color dodge. The last one I have added, this one I have added behind everything, and I have set the blending mode to screen, and inside this layer I have painted on a layer set to color with yellow and orange. And now we have this fill to the fire. So create a new layer, clip it inside by holding Alt, and now set the layer to color. And with the brush tool and the soft brush I'm going to paint now. So take the yellow color and change the flow to around 10%, and if we paint you'll see that it will add that really nice yellowish color to our image. And then on top of it I have painted with an orange color here more on top. Now we will have some warm tones to our image, and then double click and apply the blend if, so hold Alt and drag the right slider more to the right to diffuse the colors more. After that, on this group of the layers that created a fire, I have added a hue and saturation to decrease a bit the saturation because the fire was too intense, and on top of everything I have added more darkness by decreasing the brightness and increasing the contrast. Now it starts to make sense, and because I said about all those highlights that now are hidden, let's bring them back. So on the ruins part here at the wolf legs, we have first this one, which is as I said, the layer set to linear dodge, and I have applied the blend if. So really quickly go to layer, new layer, and here mode should be linear dodge, and fill it with black. Take, in our case, the brush tool and the orange color, and now if we paint here on the ruins, you'll see that it will add that orange color on the rocks. Alright, and then double click on the layer and hold Alt and drag this slider to the right until you are satisfied with the result. So that was the first one, and then on top of it another one, the same technique with the linear dodge, and the last one I drew the same with white this time, and I didn't apply the blend if. Alright, and on the wolf I did the same things. First, as I said, I drew with an orange color, and then on top with more bright white color and a bit of yellow. On top of everything, on the foreground I have added those rocks, so I had a picture with them like that. I cut them from this picture, added to the front of everything, and added a Gaussian blur. And the same things with the selective color. I have changed the colors of the neutrals on a layer set to color, and brightness and contrast to decrease the brightness and increase the contrast, and to add those tiny highlights. Now is the time for the rider part. So that was the image that I have used in creating the top part. Then I cut the subject from the horse part and I pasted her on top of my wolf, and I have added a mask and masked the areas that should be behind. And because on this area we need to fill it with her shoulder and a part of her chest, I copied some parts of the same image and moved them to the other side. And here on this hand I cut off that axe that she was holding on, and I masked it by using a clone stamp tool. And now for the harness part, I cut off this part and use it here, and with the poppled warp I move it around and add it to this angle, and then I copied other parts of the harness and placed them around to match the perspective of our wolf. This one here down below, this one next to it, this one on the side, and here on the left side. So now it looks like the harness it's surrounding the wolf. And coming back to the wolf, as I said, I had to make some shadows underneath this harness, and with an exposure I have made those dark parts behind our harness. And then I have drew some hair on top. You can check out the video that I have on my channel on how to draw hair using the mouse or the tablet. And then with the selective color I have changed the colors on a layer set again to color, change the neutrals, and then with the brightness and contrast, decrease the brightness and increase the contrast. With the hue and saturation I have changed the colors of this bottom part with the harness and everything because they were too purple, so they will look like that. I decreased the saturation and I modified the black values. And then I wanted to have her hand that originally it wasn't, so here we don't see her other arm, her left arm, and I had to create it. So for that I used this picture, and I needed her hand, this hand from here, so I added a mask the hand, and then place it here. I added a mask to mask that part, so it looks like it's behind the wolf, and brightness and contrast to decrease the brightness. Then I added a sword here on the arm. That was the sword, and I added a mask, so now it looks like she's holding the sword. And I have used that soft light to darken up a bit some parts of the sword. And on the other arm I added this dagger, and I have added a mask, and now she looks like she's holding the dagger. And the same with an exposure, I darken up a bit the dagger. With the brightness and contrast I have increased the brightness and the contrast on the other side of the dagger, and with the hue and saturation I have modified a bit the colors of this part. I made them red. Then I have added an exposure, decreased the exposure a lot. Then with the dodge and burn, the soft light layer I have painted with black to darken up even more. And with the brightness and contrast I have increased a bit the face brightness and increased the contrast. And then by using the same method I added some highlights on the riders only, and I used my method with the linear dodge and the blend if. Then on top, the last one, I have added some highlights using the same method with the linear dodge. After that I have manually painted some fur, so I have drew those fur on top here on this part that we didn't previously had. And then on top, on the hair part, I drew some more hair, and with the white color I made this hair to pop up even more. And then with the layer filled with black and set to color dodge, I have drew with the white color on the margins and overall where I wanted to have some highlights. So go layer, new layer, and here set color dodge and fill it with black. Let's take this soft brush, decrease the flow to around 3%, and now if you paint with the white color, you'll add that really nice glow on the parts that you want. So this is how I used this color dodge technique on a layer filled with black. And now I'm going to use Optics, which is a great plugin from Boris FX, and Optics has a lot of amazing lighting and special effects. Don't forget to follow the link in my video description. If you want to purchase it, you have a 20% off if you use my special coupon code. So for that to happen, let's create a new layer by pressing Ctrl Shift and I. That will do a screenshot from all the layers, and then right click, convert it to a smart object. This is really important to have a smart object because you can later on modify any smart filter that you apply on this smart object. And then go to filter, and here choose Boris FX and then Optics. The interface is really simple and easy to use. On the left side we have the layer panels, and here down below we have the filters, and we can choose from a lot of filters, and each filter has a lot of presets. First layer is the layer that we just created, and the one on top is the layer where we are going to apply the filters. So having the first layer on top selected, this one, I'm going first to add a moon. Let's go to render, and here I'm going to choose this type of filter, which is Luna, that means moon, and we have a different type of moons, and for today I'm going to choose full moon. And now let's shrink it by dragging this circle to the middle, and now let's drag the moon on top and place it wherever we want it to be. And here on the right side we have some settings, some parameters that we can modify, and for example I want to increase the glow brightness and then the brightness overall. And now let's apply a mask to mask a bit this moon. So click on this add mask, and now we are going to choose spot. And with this type of mask I'm going to drag it, and I want to show just a part of my moon. And if we want to modify some other settings to the mask, we can click again on the mask, and for example let's decrease the opacity to show a bit less of the moon. And now let's add some stars on the sky. For that, let's create a new layer. So click on this little icon, and then we can go here on the night sky, double click, and the same here on the right we have a variety of presets, but I'm going to keep it like that because I don't want the stars to be that visible. So we are going to use the default one. But for other designs, for example, we can choose other types of presets, which will be really interesting, but not for today. Now the problem is that we have the stars on top of the image, and we want the stars to be only on the sky area and not on top of our subject. For that, let's go on the mask and choose this time easy mask. And we have two options now to select the area where we want the stars to be and to deselect the parts that we don't want the stars to be. First, let's use the right click mouse, the right button of the mouse, and select the areas where we don't want the stars to be. So we don't want the stars to be in this area because we have the moon, and in the rest of the image where we have the subjects. For example, here you don't have to be really precise because the plugin will do the rest, but you need to tell the plugin where it shouldn't use the preset. Alright, so we define the area where we don't want the stars to be, and now with the other mouse button, the left mouse button, I'm going to tell the program, the plugin, alright, here I want the stars to be. So with these green lines, I'm telling the plugin where we should have the stars. So between the trees a bit, and here on the top also. Alright, now let's apply the mask. Click on this button here on the top, and it will apply the mask. If you click on the layer, you'll see that we have the stars behind everything, only on the sky part, which is really great. Now let's move on, and now behind them where we have the fire, I want to add some rays of light. For that, let's create a new layer, and here on the light I'm going to choose S-rays. Alright, so this is the effect that appears if we click on the default one. Of course, for other designs I'm going to use for sure other type of presets because they look really great, but for today I'm going to use the default one, and we have the same issue as the stars one. We don't want the rays to be all over the place, so let's define the areas where we want them to be. So for that, let's go again on the mask and choose easy mask. And now let's define the areas where we want the rays to appear. For that, I'm going to use the left click of the mouse. So with the left click, I'm going to draw some lines. So I want the rays to be in this area, right, between the legs, and here on the top, and a bit on the rocks, but not too much. Alright, so now I'm going to define the areas where we don't want the lights to be. So for that, I'm going to use the other mouse button, the right mouse, and I'm going to define the areas that I don't want those rays of light to appear. Alright, and then let's apply the mask. Let's click on the layer, and now we have the rays behind our subjects, and this is really great. Now let's change some settings. I don't want the rays to be white, so I'm going to select an orange color, and I think now it looks much better. I'm going to increase the length of the red color, and now I'm going to change the outer bright and a bit the ray under source. Now the rays are more subtle, so this is really nice and I like it. And now let's move on and adding another layer. And what I want now is to add some filters, some effects, special effects on the source part. And first I want to have like a background color, and then on top of that I'm going to apply some lightnings. Go to render, and here let's choose this muzzle flash. And if you look on the right side, you'll see a lot of types of presets. And for today I'm going to use this magna coil. This is the type of effect that we have, and I'm going to drag it and arrange it on top of my sword. And we can rotate it and then place it on top of the sword. Let's go to the setting, to the parameters, and here let's decrease the radius. And we can decrease the length of this lightning and move it again on the sword. And let's decrease the number of octaves. Now we have 3, let's modify this to 2 and rotate it a bit more. And now let's change the colors of this light. So first of all, I want to change this pink color into a blue color, so this one. And now I think it will look much better for our sword. For the other sword, it's easier now because we just created one. Let's duplicate this layer. So right click on the layer, duplicate the layer, and let's drag this on top of the other one. Okay, and we need to rotate it. And let's play a bit with the seed now. And then let's drag it on top of the sword again and modify a bit the length. Alright, it looks really nice, and let's change the colors now to an orange colors. So this orange on top and the other one beneath, let's change it to a yellowish color, and now we'll have 2 different colors on our swords. I think we need to change the beneath one to a more bright yellowish color, something like that. Okay. Alright, now it looks much better, and overall we need to decrease a bit the intensity of this glow. So let's do that by decreasing the brightness here on the top and increase a bit the primary brightness. Alright, I think now it looks really nice, and let's move on by adding a new layer. And now we are going to add some thunders on those swords. So let's click on the zap, and this is really easy. You see a lot of points that we can modify. It looks like the puppet warp that we have in Photoshop, so let's drag those points to arrange it on our swords. So go on again on the parameters, and here let's increase the number of bolts to 6, and it will add a lot of lightnings. And now we can decrease a bit the width of the bolts, something like that. And the end pointness, you see here on top, it has the same width as here on the bottom, so we need this top to be much thinner. So let's increase the end pointiness, and now it looks much better. And we can change a bit the glow color to an orangey color, so click on this glow color. Alright, let's use this color, and I think it looks really nice. Now let's copy this effect, let's duplicate this layer. So right click, duplicate layer, and drag it on top of the other sword. Of course, there are a lot of settings that we can use here on the right side For example, if we want more branchiness, we can increase the numbers of them. You'll see that it will add a lot of branchiness, but I don't want to have that many. Alright, and the glow color, let's change it to a very bright blue color. And now let's add some lens flare on top of those lightnings. So create a new layer, and now let's go to light and choose lens flare. Here we have like a lot of them. I spent a lot of time in choosing my favorite ones for this design. Let's choose the engagement shot one. So double click on this preset and drag it on top of the sword. Now let's change the parameters because it's too intense. Go to parameters and decrease the size. Let's zoom in to see better, and now let's blur a bit the flare and a bit the raise brightness. We have a different type of lens here on this one, so the other brightness, if we increase it and drag this mark, you'll see on the screen some other flares, some reflections of the first one, and you can move those around. And decrease or increase the brightness if you prefer. Alright, I think I like it like that, and now let's duplicate it by right clicking on the layer, duplicate layer, and drag this one on top of the other sword. Alright, and now let's change this one, this type of lens flare, into an amorphic blue. Let's go to the parameters, and here let's change some things. First of all, let's make it smaller by decreasing the scale, and decrease a bit the brightness, and add a bit of blur to this flare. And I think we are done, and we need another one. Of course you can add as many as you want, but I don't want to exaggerate, and I'm going to add another one here on the rocks. So right click, duplicate layer, and I'm going to drag this one again here where I want it to be, and I'm just going to rotate it a bit and decrease a bit the brightness. Alright, I think it's really subtle, but I love it like that. And now let's apply some film filters on top of everything, create a new layer, and let's go to Film Lab, and here let's choose film stocks. And because we have like hundreds of them, we have a lot of them, and I spent a lot of time in deciding which one I want to use. I'm going to use two of them. First of all is this Agfa RSX 100. And I'm going to decrease the opacity. If I click here where it says 100, I'm going to decrease it to 70%, alright? And then I'm going to add another one. So right click on this one and duplicate the layer, and I'm going to use this bluish one, Agfa Optima, and decrease the opacity to around 15%. And now I think it looks really nice. Now we can save the setup if we want, and if you don't want to save it for the next time, you can apply it to your smart object that we just created by clicking on this done icon. So if you are interested in purchasing optics, just follow the link in the video description for a special offer from Boris FX. You'll have 20% off if you use the coupon code that you'll find in the video description. If you like my content, please don't forget to subscribe to this channel, and if you want to support me and my work, also press that join button to become a member of this channel, and you can see my videos before everybody else. See you next time!